Good evening, and thanks for joining us. We're used to, doing shows in the morning. So, with all of this controversy trailing INEC, of course, at a time where they're getting set to play umpire in one of the biggest elections in Africa, which is Nigeria's elections, what are your thoughts? I'll start with you, Mr. Martins.
Okay, the truth is, coming at this time makes the whole thing suspicious. If she had been manning this position maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I'm not sure we would have had this kind of momentum against her as we're having now. Now, the fact that it has happened so close to election is the reason why the heat to remove her from there is this much. Having said that, the truth is that there is some relationship, obviously, between the president and Mrs. Amina Zakari. If they lived in the same house at some point, obviously that is a factor. The fact is that not necessarily blood, but once you have been in some kind of association with somebody over the years, mind you, she worked with him at the PTF, she was a consultant, I want to believe, or she handled some for a number of years. So to that extent, it is a misnomer to have her head or participate in the collation of results because she will be partisan. Quickly,
Mr. Israel, before we go for the break, what are your thoughts?
Personally, I feel it's a very serious on-go on the part of the president and the APC as a party. The thing about optics is that in political communications is that you must be seen to be doing good if you say that you're doing good. And if this person, like he said, if this person has lived in your house, you owe it to Nigerians to say that, oh, there is this form of relationship. Don't let Nigerians find out on their own and bring it to your attention. The fact that you're hiding something means that there's something you're trying to do with it. And of course, it's so close to election. If you wanted nothing about the competence of the woman in question, but the fact remains that if she is related to the president by blood, through marriage, by living on the same street at some point, worked together in the past, it is a duty of the presidency, it is a duty of the APC or whoever needs to come forward and tell Nigerians that there is some form of relationship between these two, but this is why we're appointing her as the head of... she shouldn't be involved in elections at all. And most importantly, it is not for Nigerians to find out. Nigerians finding out, if the PDP, for instance, had not made a lot of noise about it, a lot of Nigerians would not know, will see it as, oh, okay, fine, it's just one of those nepotistic appointments that the president makes anyways. But there is a relationship, and the presidency is coming out and saying, no, it's not blood, it's the fact that they are related through marriage. At the end of the day, that is conflict of interest. It wouldn't happen in corporate Nigeria.
So these reports go beyond just sheer propaganda?
It is not a matter of propaganda. It is optics. You must be seen. A lot of people, the president has come under a lot of pressure in the past because of appointing certain people from a particular part of the country. And it is not that people are saying that those people are not competent. It is just a question of, you understand that you're president of Nigeria. There are different tribes, there are different sects, there are different creeds and all that. You need to appear as if you are as the president of Nigeria and not the president of a particular part of the country.
But a lot of critics are saying that, look, this is like, a tiny fish compared to the bigger issues that we are supposed to be addressing, and this is a mere distraction of sorts. But there's a video of Amina Zakari. We want to go to that video, and when we come back, we'll talk more. Stay tuned.
President Muhammadu Buhari is my president, as everybody else is president. He's not my cousin, he's not my uncle, as is being claimed. That's all I can say. I've been on this job since 2010, and this same president lost an election. And the people that complain have worked closely with me. They have not in any way accused me of any wrongdoing over the years, and I've done my work diligently. I was in charge of political party monitoring for 4 years, from 2010 to 2014. There was not a single scandal to my name, and nobody can claim to have paid me or asked me to do anything wrong. And if they have, I would love them to come forward.
Now, you just watched that video clip. That's a reaction from Amina Zakari. What do you make of that explanation?
Well, it flies in the face. The truth of the matter is that for practical purposes, this is Nigeria. If you have a system, you know, that is, if you like, reliable, watertight. I remember in your first interview, you made mention, or was it the INEC PRO? You made mention of tracking devices for their logistics cover and all of that. Quite impressive, quite encouraging, if indeed that is the reality. However, for practical purposes, if for any reason Amina Zakari has lived in the same house with President Buhari, she has no business, as a matter of fact, within the INEC structure altogether. That is how I see it.
But if she has been there since 2010 up until now, she can't lose her job
Just
because
a minute.
somebody who knows her is now the president.
The way I understand politics, the way I, in fact, define politics is just a trade of influence. You trade your influence. Now, where she was mandated to occupy, as at the time she was, if you like, engaged, is different from where they are now taking her to. It is because of where they are taking her to now that we are all so interested in this matter.
Edward, how important or how strategic is that position if she emerges or she still stays come February 16 as the collation officer in charge?
So I think, first of all, we need to understand that this issue is a question of integrity on the part of the presidency. It is not, like I said earlier, it's not a matter of the competency of Mrs.
Amina
Zakari. You understand? It has nothing to do with her. It is the integrity of the president to be able to say that this is the relationship between me and this person or not. Now, from what INEC has come out to tell Nigerians is that the head of collation is just in charge of logistics at the international conference center and all sorts. But you have to also understand that Nigerians have been disappointed by this government over the past 3.5 years. So there's an issue of trust. And if you want to win the trust of Nigerians, it is not for you to then do something that makes them question your integrity. Do you understand? So I feel that what has happened right now is that the president has shown that there is something hidden, there is something secret, which of course will cost him, which is why the opposition and a lot of Nigerians are asking that, why is it now? Why is it now that you're even if this person is going to just bring coffee into INEC office on election day? As in, if we had known about it, or if she had been appointed 2 years ago, maybe it wouldn't be an issue. But why is it on the eve of elections that, and a lot of us might not know how the INEC system works internally. But when you say someone is a collation officer, the way the average person on the street understands it is that this person is going to be in charge of. And we saw what happened. We saw what happened in Ekiti State. We saw the kind of irregularities that happened at the European Union. The US Embassy came out and said that there was widespread voter intimidation and irregularities in the voting. So Nigerians are already aware that the government can go to certain limits to enforce their will. Do you understand? So this issue, of course, brings out oh, they have started again. Do you understand? So I think that's the issue.
What do you think, in your opinion, what do you think would douse this tension? Because it seems you've actually played up a lot of things, Ekiti being, a litmus test. What does the presidency need to do to make this right?
I think at this point, there's really nothing that they can do. I think the only thing that the president has failed to do, which must have led the opposition to come and make a lot of noise about this, is the National Assembly had passed an election amendment bill, which would have made the elections more free and fair. The use of card readers would be enforced, and the issues of rigging and a lot of things that happened in the Ekiti elections would not come into play. But the presidency has failed to, or has refused to sign that bill. So they say, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Do you understand? So if I do not trust you, because I have said, okay, fine, let us sign a bill that says that all these things would be enforced. You have said that you don't want to sign that bill. Now, suddenly I wake up and someone in your family is now appointed as the national coalition, of course, I would raise a lot of
But
noise about
now
it.
the president has said the reason for not assenting to this bill is the fact that the calculation or the timing isn't good enough for us to. It wouldn't rather strengthen our democracy. Instead, it would weaken it because the expectations would be too high. Is that justifiable?
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
The truth of the matter is that when a bill is passed to the presidency, there are so many people in that presidency. Now, the presidency could make his observations and also send his own suggestions to this electoral act, so to speak. Meaning that if the first time they sent it to you, you didn't remember to give your own suggestions.
Four
the second
times.
time, that is exactly where I'm going to. You see, there's something fishy and very untidy about this action. And we must be honest with ourselves. We must face this reality. We have a big problem on our hands. If the presidency is giving us this kind of headache, then I guess that Nigerians must come into the streets and demand, because it's a democracy. I will not say more than that.
Okay, before we continue with the conversation, don't forget we are live on Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter, and of course on YouTube. You could be part of the conversation, and you could also send us your thoughts and your comments. But before we continue, you have said something about protest. Now, the issue of protest and strike actions in this country have become more like a toothless bulldogs of sorts. So what difference will it make if Nigerians hit the street and say we no go agree?
It will make a lot of difference. The reason being that we're all here when we had the carnival-like protests over the fuel...
Occupy Nigeria.
Yes. And it was effective. The government of the day, as at that time, they had to, if you like, reduce the rate and eventually even took it further down on their own volition. So people's power is the essence of democracy. Anything outside that is no longer democracy.